Well, hello. So thank you for visiting me and coming to this. I don't want to say workshop because we're really not doing any work. We're here actually just to listen. But if you could take out some paper and something to write with, that'd be great because we have some slides that we're going to go through and I'm going to explain some things about buying a HUD home in Prince George's County, and we're going to get started now. So there's some other people coming in the room, but it's fine. My assistant can let them in. Okay, so I am Denise Watkins. I have been in this industry for 24 years. I am a licensed real estate agent with Samson Properties. I specialize in first-time home buyers and programs. I specialize with probate and real estate investments. I'm proudly serving Prince George's County, Charles County, Howard, and Baltimore County and Washington, D.C. I always believe that real estate is a way to build wealth. So, my goal is to help you buy smart, save money, and build wealth through real estate. So, let's ask. I have some pre qualifying questions. The first thing we want to know is, have you spoken with a lender? Okay, because your lender is your, after meeting with your real estate agent, is your second point of contact because that is the person who's going to verify your credentials to determine if you are eligible or qualified to get a loan. Because if you're not qualified to get a loan, then this program won't work for you. So you have to know where you are. And even if you're not qualified, the good thing about working with my lender is that uh, they will work with you. They'll give you a plan to help you wherever you are. So if it means you're saving money or you're building credit or you just started your job, they will work with you until you get to that point where you are qualified. So if you know your credit score, that is great because that's something they look at. That's probably one of the number one criterias when you are applying for a loan. They want to know if you're credit worthy. And they don't look at just your credit score, they look at your credit score, your credit history, your debt to income ratio. They also want to know, do you have funds for your down payment and closing costs? So there people are confused when they hear, okay, down payment. They think down payment is just a down payment, but there's another set of funds that you need when you're buying a house, and that is the closing cost. So they want to look at how much funds do you have. Now, if you're doing a typical FHA borrowing, if the loan is an FHA loan, then they require a 3.5% down. So if the property is 300,000, then you're looking at about $10,500 down, and that's just for the down payment, but it goes toward your purchase price. So if your purchase price is 300,000, you minus the 10,500 when you make that down payment. So after that, then you have your closing costs. Now your closing costs can be anywhere from 2 to 3%. So if it's 3%, that's times uh, the sales price. So let's say 300,000 again, then your closing costs will be $9,000. Okay, I don't want to scare you here because there are some down payment and closing cost assistance programs, but I just want to give you some numbers so you have an idea of how much it'll cost to purchase a $300,000 home. And so far, we've added 10,500 plus another nine. So you're looking at about $21,000 to purchase a $300,000 home, and that's with no assistance. So also, we want to know if you're currently renting. So if you're currently renting and you're in lease, remember you cannot break your lease, not in Prince George's County. So you have to work out your lease terms or buy out your terms with the landlord. You want to know what's your monthly budget. So even if you do qualify for 300,000 and your payments are $2,500 a month, can you really afford that? So think about what your budget is and not just what you can afford, but think about all the other things that you have going on, like your entertainment, vacation. So you don't want to go in house poor. Prince George's County is very large. You want to understand what areas you want to live in and what those areas are and if they're moving forward in Prince George's County. So it depends on your goals again. Some areas are not moving, they're stagnant, people are comfortable with that. And then there's some areas that are progressing, and those areas you might be interested in. Like, and I say this means what I'm saying is that some cities in Prince George's County are thriving. I mean, they're bringing in new young people every day, old people every day. I'm not discriminating, but they're adding businesses. They're adding uh, bike racks. They're adding coffee shops. They're bringing revenue into that city, so that makes it thrive. And then you also want to know, the lender will want to know, is this going to be your primary residence? And that's important, and we'll talk about that on the next slide. So the HUD $100 down program. So what is it? It just said that you can buy a HUD home, and it has to be a HUD home with only $100 down. Now, remember we talked about down payment and we talked about closing costs. This is just the down payment. So instead of coming to the table with 3.5%, which is $10,500 on a $300,000 loan, you only have to put down $100. Now, who qualifies? Owner occupant buyers. And this is why it's important that we have to know if you're planning on living in the property, because investors during a certain period cannot purchase a HUD home unless it's an investor bidding period. But HUD requires that you are a home owner occupied buyer if you're purchasing during that period. The loan must be an FHA loan approval, and it has to be HUD eligible properties. It cannot be a property outside of HUD properties, not using the $100 down program. And why does this matter? It matters because you get to save cash up front. It's great for first-time home buyers, and you can have access to affordable homes. Now, when I say affordable homes, these homes don't cost market value. So if you see a HUD home in a community where homes are selling for $300,000, you might be able to purchase that home for $200,000, therefore gaining equity. Talk about gaining equity. That's a benefit. So let's look at some benefits and considerations. The benefits: low upfront costs, which means that instead of, like I said, putting down the 3.5%, you're only putting down 100. This way you keep the savings for repairs and reserve, probably for your closing costs. So, and also you build equity faster. And when I talk about equity, equity is the difference from what you owe and what the property is worth. So if you owe the mortgage company $300,000 and the property is worth $400,000, you have $100,000 in equity that you can use if you take out a home equity loan or sell the property. So I like to call these the cons. They are the considerations. The homes are so as is. That means HUD will not make any repairs. So if you go into a HUD home, and it needs repairs, that's solely on the buyer. There are many homes that HUD sell that requires repairs. Just want to make you aware of that. And then there's a competitive bidding process. So you don't just walk in and hand your offer to the seller. It has to go through a portal where other buyers are competing for this property. And the bidding process is not that difficult. They look at the highest and best offer, and sometimes the highest offer is not always the best offer. So here's the process. You get pre-approved, FHA pre-approved from your lender. Once you approve, you identify HUD properties. You tour the properties with your agent, and your agent submit your bid online. So if your offer is accepted, then we move forward with the inspection. And this is the inspection period where you hire an inspector to come in and look at point out the things that's wrong with the property. And believe me, there's something wrong with every property, even new homes. And that inspector job is to go through and check the systems, the mechanics, the roof, the plumbing, all those things. And they give you a report letting you know, okay, these are the items that either needs attention or are in need of immediate repair. And keep in mind, remember, if you're buying a HUD home, HUD will not make any of those repairs. Okay, so the loan processing period. So when you submit your offer to the portal, and it's approved, we send it to the lender, letting them know that we have a bona fide offer, and that's when the lender start processing the loan. Once everything is out of the lender's hand and is finally fully approved, we go to closing. So the next step. Okay, so what we want to do here, and I left Mr. Price's name up there for a reason, because Mr. Price was my first presentation. So I like to use him because he was committed, he dove in, and he was the first one to sign up. So I decided I wanted to use him. Step one is to get FHA pre-approval. Step two is to review the HUD inventory together. So I will send you a link with all the HUD homes. You put in the city or the state where you want to purchase, which it could be anywhere in Maryland, mainly in the counties that I work in, Washington, D.C. also. So you want to narrow down the qualifying homes. You might not want a home that's in D.C. You might not want a condo. You might not want a townhouse. You might not even want a colonial. So you want to narrow down the qualifying homes. Once you narrow it down, then we schedule tours. And if you like that home, we submit the bid. But if not, you just stay connected for the new listings. So let's start with your pre-approval so that we find you the right home if you're ready. And all it takes is one phone call to the lender, because once you talk to the lender, and this is with every buyer that I work with, once you talk to the lender, you're going to actually know where you stand and where you need to go from here. So I want to thank you for being a part of this. My name is Denise Watkins. I'm a realtor with Samson Properties. This is my contact information. You can scan the QR code. It will take you to my business card, which has a Calendly link where we can talk one-on-one. And before you do anything, I would rather that we do a one-on-one call because everybody is different. So that's all I have to share for now. And I hope to hear from all of you soon. Bye for now.